How's it going, everyone? I want to go over some very interesting rumors that are coming from multiple sources that potential Xbox titles could be headed on over to PlayStation 5 and other third-party platforms. Now, before we get into this video, I just want to ask you guys, please like this video and do leave a comment with your thoughts. It really does help out the channel a lot, and it is much appreciated. Now, this makes all the sense in the world as Microsoft's game plan going forward in terms of what they want to do in gaming has been shifting a little bit, and really, gaming as a whole has been shifting a little bit with some of the ongoing development that Sony's doing, that Microsoft's doing. Nintendo has kind of always been seen as being on an island of their own, but they're in the mix here as well, although I don't actually foresee a world where, let's say, the new Pokemon game or the new Mario game will be on competing platforms, but we've seen crazier. However, when it comes to Microsoft, they are the company where I can foresee their titles coming to competing platforms, and we've already seen a little bit of that with titles like Ori being available on Switch, just for example. But it exceeding beyond that makes all the sense in the world to me sometime in the future. Now, multiple sources, as noted on Twisted Voxel, have indicated that Xbox is looking to foray into third-party development with ports of several first-party titles rumored to arrive on PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch 2. Switch 2 makes a ton of sense given that, again, they've done work on Nintendo Switch, and Switch 2 being at a higher level from a power standpoint can open up the avenue for a lot of games to come there that are already Xbox titles. An insider who goes by the name of Sneakers SO on gaming enthusiast forum NeoGaf has claimed that Xbox is looking to go third party, while Windows Central's Jez Corden, who is very much connected in the insides of Xbox, has hinted that there's no smoke without a fire. According to the insider, Hi-Fi Rush is one of the Xbox first-party titles being ported to competing platforms, but not the only one. Now, let me speak a little on Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was legitimately one of my favorite games of 2023. I don't talk a lot about it on this channel because it's not on PlayStation, but man, that game was fantastic, and I think if it comes to PlayStation 5, it'll do very well on there, and it was a budget title released on $30, on a $30 price point, obviously available on Game Pass as well. I bought a copy of it on Steam, just right out the gate, just because it seemed so interesting to me, and I just played it. Love that game. Think it'll do incredibly well on PlayStation 5 if it came there, and I think it would do exceedingly well on Nintendo Switch too. I think it's a game that would be tailor-made for the Nintendo audience, and I think they would absolutely love it. The reason why I believe it couldn't be on the Switch 1, it was very much that game needed to be at 60 frames per second. It wasn't available on Xbox One. When you would look at that game and be like, this could run on the X1, but it wasn't available on there. But it was available on Series S and X, and obviously on PC, and man, that game was just so great. They also mentioned that Starfield, another major Xbox title, will be ported by Microsoft, possibly to both the PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch 2. Look, that's a Bethesda title, a Bethesda open world game. Look at what happened with Skyrim. They ported that game to everything under the sun, and how much mileage did they get out of that game for a long period of time? They made money year over year over year over year off that game, and I don't think Starfield can be monetized to the extent of Skyrim. They're two different ball games. Starfield is not as big of a game as Skyrim. I think most people are confident in saying that, even though if you look at it metrically, there is the stat Starfield had more players than Skyrim. You know, at launch it was the biggest Bethesda launch ever, but the Starfield was also available on Game Pass, where Skyrim was a $60 game. Gaming the landscape in terms of how many people have access to a PC and Xbox, like, a lot of things have changed. I still feel like Skyrim is a far more iconic game than Starfield, and I don't think anybody would argue with that. But at the same time, if you ported Starfield, let's say the DLC comes out and you do a Game of the Year, I mean, you can't call it a Game of the Year edition. I mean, that would just be comical. But if you did a complete edition and released it on PlayStation 5 and Switch 2, 60 bucks, I think it would do fairly well, and you're just monetizing games. And look, Microsoft isn't in the business anymore necessarily to do just console exclusives. I mean, they're porting all of their games and bringing all of their games day one to PC, so that's already on the table, and it really does seem like, yes, Microsoft is still selling consoles, but their big game plan here is to sell Game Pass as a subscription service. I don't know if Game Pass would be coming to PlayStation 5. I do think Microsoft would be open to working out a deal. It's just, it's got to be the right deal. There's a lot of things that go into play that is way out of my pay grade to assess on whether or not Game Pass would be coming to PlayStation 5. However, Look at Microsoft. They already dropped their games on a PC platform that they don't have control over in Steam. Yes, they have the Game Pass PC app, which is their ecosystem, but they put their games, their first-party titles, on a totally different ecosystem. Steam is a different ecosystem than Game Pass is. PlayStation would be a different ecosystem than Game Pass or Microsoft, of course. And I think at the end of the day, it's all about making the most amount of money. And as the years go by, I do feel like there are still console wars, let's not get it twisted, but those walls are breaking down, they're coming lower and lower. If you would have told me a decade ago that all of the elements that have been happening recently in gaming, Sony putting their games on PC, Microsoft games being available day and day, certain Xbox published titles being available on Nintendo platforms, if you told me all that a decade ago, I would have said you're high out of your mind, and none of that is ever happening. But you look at the ecosystem today, the game has changed, the game has evolved, and there are different priorities, especially when you consider the fact that some of these games are so expensive to develop for that where is the value with these games? Is it to sell this console box, or is it to make a return on investment on the game itself? It is a little bit of a balancing act, and we see Sony handle that balancing act fairly effectively, where they take their games and they monetize them multiple times. What I mean by this is, let's take a Spider-Man 2018. Spider-Man 2018 comes out, they monetize that. Then it comes out as Spider-Man Remastered on PlayStation 5, monetized again. They put it on PlayStation Plus for a little bit, but then pull it and release a remaster as a standalone title, and obviously they also release Spider-Man on PC. You're getting an extended return on the investment, and you're monetizing the same game multiple times. Now, obviously there are development costs tied to porting the game to PC, etc., but it's been a very successful venture for Sony, but they're not doing day one PC games. They are still focused on their first party titles, selling that box to you. Microsoft wants to sell you that box, but at the same time, they're okay with bringing their games to PC, and they very much want to get you on Game Pass, but even beyond that, they're releasing their games on Steam as well. The majority of people that I talk to about Starfield, as far as PC goes, bought Starfield on Steam. Now, obviously, there were a ton of people that played it on Game Pass as well, but a lot of people bought it on Steam, and I don't think that it's going to be a case of every Xbox title being day one available on PlayStation 5. I think it's very much going to be a case-by-case basis. I think it's going to be some titles are going to come out delayed, and other titles, we'll see what they ultimately decide. But there was also the talk of Halo Infinite potentially being released on PS5, and the insider stated that the possibility of it happening isn't as far-fetched as some would assume. Halo Infinite's a free-to-play game. I really don't believe Halo Infinite is selling a lot of people on Xboxes at this point. A lot of people play it on PC, a lot of people do play it on Xbox, but Halo Infinite as a free-to-play title is that live service ecosystem. This is what I talk about when I talk about live service games all the time. Those games are their own ecosystem that are trying to monetize themselves and have this longevity. You want those games being accessible to as many people as possible. A Halo Infinite would do very well right out the gate on PlayStation 5. Hell, even Switch 2, because they could easily bring it on a Switch 2. But it would do well. Now, sustainability is a different thing, but if you wanted to reignite interest in Halo Infinite, the way you do it, and by the way, Halo Infinite's much better now than it was at launch, but the way you do it is bringing it on PlayStation 5 and Switch 2, just because right off the bat, you would have that shock factor of, holy crap, Halo is on PlayStation. A lot of people would just check it out for the novelty of that, and then ultimately it would be up to everyone involved to create some sustainability. But if you wanted a second wind for Halo Infinite, I really believe that is how you do it. I think that's a great idea. When you actually think about it from that lens, I'm not saying release every game day one on PlayStation 5. Sure, that would be best for consumer, but there's a lot of things that go into making decisions like that that I'm not going to meticulously break down right now. But in the case of Halo Infinite, that just seems like a no-brainer to me, that if everybody could come on board and we can figure out a way to get Halo Infinite on PlayStation 5, it would just make all the sense in the world. And again, the initial wave of interest would be incredibly high. I don't expect that to be sustainable for the long term, and we've seen it with PlayStation on PC, that initially the shock and the appeal of PlayStation games on PC caused a lot of people to get excited and buy a lot of those games, and then, you know, that novelty kind of wore off, where games like Uncharted, Legacy of Thieves Collection, and Sackboy: A Big Adventure, they didn't do all too well on PC. Returnal is another one that didn't do crushing numbers, but still, they create passive revenue for games that already came out on PlayStation 5. Sneakers SO also said that this new direction from Microsoft encompasses titles in development at Xbox Game Studios, Activision, Blizzard, as well as Bethesda Game Studios, and you look at a title like Marvel's Blade, that game was not noted to be an Xbox exclusive or a console exclusive right off the top. That is something that we'll hear more about, and obviously Elder Scrolls 6 would be a big one in the sense of, you know, there's a lot of talk on whether or not that'll be coming to PlayStation, and I don't think it'll be on PlayStation day one, but you look at what Bethesda did with Skyrim and how they were able to monetize that game for literally a decade plus, and they're continuing to monetize it. You would think it would be foolish to not ultimately do that with Elder Scrolls 6 as well if they could get that level of mileage out of the game, and I do foresee that happening. But that is my 2 cents. That is me rambling. I think it makes all the sense in the world to get these games on other platforms. Pull what Sony's doing. If Microsoft still wants to sell their box, and there's a lot of elements to really dissect, release their games day one on Xbox as a timed exclusive, a year, 2 years, whatever you want to do, and then bring it to PlayStation down the line. As long as all parties can figure out an agreement where it's a mutually beneficial relationship, I think it makes a lot of sense. You do have to put some ego aside, especially when you're talking about a Microsoft and a Sony working together, but I think that's manageable, and I think, again, it would be a mutually beneficial relationship to every party involved. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Interested to hear your guys' takes. I know a lot of you guys will come at this in different angles than I do. I would really like the console wars to just be eliminated. I would like for a Horizon Zero Dawn to be on Xbox. I would like a Halo Infinite to be on PlayStation. Let people just buy the consoles they want to buy, put down the walls, put down the barriers. I know from a consumer standpoint that's easier said than done, and that's just, you know, what would be best for everyone involved, but, you know, enough with the timed exclusivities, like Sony just paying money to Square Enix, probably in the 8 to 9 figures just to get FF7 Rebirth as an exclusive, FF7 Remake still not on Xbox. Get those games on Xbox. Let's get some Ori, Hi-Fi Rush, games like that on PlayStation I feel like would do really well, but again, that's my consumer lens speaking, and I get it, there's a lot of other moving parts that I'm not gonna go on a diatribe about, but let me know your thoughts down below. Sound off in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and goodbye. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and if you're already subscribed, do us a favor and hit the bell icon. This way you'll be notified whenever we post a new video. That's the best way to keep up with all of our uploads, and we usually try to upload 2 videos a day. And with the bell icon hit, you'll be notified whenever we do upload a video. As always, thanks for watching.